Good morning, gorgeous ones. It's Friday afternoon. This podcast is going live in about an hour, actually. So I have to get a rattle on and get it done. I'm jumping in here blind. I don't have a script. I mean, sometimes I don't have a script, but I don't usually not have a script and my face in front of everyone. So normally I do these things kind of behind the screen, but here we have a mug behind a mug. So hello, happy Friday, and I hope you're looking forward to the weekend. Now, I just want to talk a few minutes today about why your story, your narrative, why it's important. Okay, we're all doing different things. We're busy, we're stressed, life is pulling us in 1,000 different directions, and sometimes we think to ourselves, God, wouldn't it be great to button off? And it would. And sometimes it's not always easy to do that. But what we have to remember is that our time on this earth is limited. We are finite beings. One day we're going to die. And what's that going to look and feel like if we haven't taken the time while we were alive? What's that going to look and feel like for our families who may have a lot of unanswered questions? A woman's story is so powerful an entity. Right from being small, right from, the day when she first actually started to speak and was capable of realizing that her voice counted for something, the time has gone along and a lot of people have put us in boxes where they don't think our voice is relevant anymore. They don't think what we have to say is interesting or matters, or our wisdom and perspective are no longer wanted in society, and more of us are starting to feel that way. I'm 65 later this month, and I am conscious that I have to talk a little louder to make myself heard, and I have to switch my attention away from people who I know aren't interested in listening to me and think about who might be. And I think every woman has people in her life who want to know more about her, certainly for the generations to come. Long after we've shuffled off our mortal coil, there will be people in our families, people for the future generations who could benefit greatly from knowing who we were and what we did and what our lives were like. You see these photos. I post a lot of retro stuff on my personal Facebook page, and a lot of that is the go-go girls from the 60s and all the amazing fashions and the cars and everything from a bygone era. And I think I was born into the wrong era. Actually, I should have been a teenager in the 50s. I love that fashion. I love the cars and so on. But even since then, throughout every decade, there have been extraordinary things happening in the world that we've borne witness to, even if we haven't been a part of. And it would be great to record some of that and how we feel about it and how it impacted on us as a reference tool for generations to come, particularly generations of daughters. We could talk about things like our menopause journey, what our relationships were like, what the pitfalls were like as women in the era in which we are living, what it's been like to try and get ahead, run a business, establish a career, bring up kids safely and happily. There are so many things that we've done as women in the space of our lifetime that no one's ever going to get to find out about. And a lot of that stuff is so valuable. And, I would be so thankful to have more information about my ancestors, especially the women, especially the ones on my father's family, because he was orphaned when he was little. His mother died when he was 2. And he was shunted around from various relatives to different relatives. As each one died, he was pushed along because his dad died in the war. So very, very little is known about the women in his family. And I would love to know more, because these are people that I came from. And to have that record, to have that story of who they were and how they lived and how they felt about life. And, there are a lot of really important lessons in that. There's a lot of inspiration in that. Women are strong. Women are tough. And those photos you see on my Facebook of the go-go girls with their mini skirts and their amazing slingback shoes, all those women are old women now, and people are seeing them as nothing more than old biddies. They're written off as old biddies in the street. People don't notice them. People don't want to talk about them or to them, God forbid. Everyone would just rather not see us if we get to a certain age. I mean, I in the 1970s rode a big motorcycle with platform shoes on. You know, most people don't know that about me. Most people have no idea, who know me now, what my life was like in the 70s, what I was dealing with then, what I was trying to overcome, what I was looking forward to, all of that stuff. There's just so much richness just in terms of who we are as women. And for some of us as well, it's some of us who are estranged from our families, estranged from our children maybe, brothers and sisters, people who have fallen out with friends. A memoir, a story that you leave as a legacy, is also a way of setting the record straight with people who never understood what you were trying to tell them or who you really were while they were floating around in your orbit or deciding to leave it. There's so much about all of us that people don't know that they could benefit from knowing. And in terms of your grandkids and your great grandkids, wouldn't it be wonderful for them to know who you were, to know that you lived? You can write a memoir, you can even put some photos into it, and just tell people who you were. Tell people who you are while you're still alive, you know. And that this, you know, this serves as a salient record of your life to date. And I know that for a lot of women, they're saying, oh, you know, I would love to do that, but I literally don't have the time. I think it's really important to make the time. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm 65. I'm only 65, you know, but in some circles that's seen as so old it can't even be contemplated. But my mother died when she was 68. So that's only 3 years from now in terms of my lifespan. And while I don't have the same historical lifestyle factors that she had that drove her early demise from the world, you know, you never know what's around the corner. And I've got 2 friends recently who've had strokes, and they're younger than me. And you can get to a point in life where the time has suddenly run out. All of a sudden, you just don't have the resources, either within yourself or the support you need to write that all-important story, that legacy, that most priceless gift that you can give your family. You have lived a life worth living. I mean, you could sit there and you would probably be telling yourself all sorts of things. I mean, I do it sometimes. I sit here and say, God, I'm boring. You know, I'm really not a very interesting person at all. And on lots of levels, I'm actually not. But on lots of levels, I actually am, and in ways that most people don't even know about. Most of the people I know in my life right now don't know that I led a political protest in 2008 and got the law changed in New Zealand to help New Zealand women. Most people don't know that I hiked the Grand Canyon back in the 80s from rim to rim with a 56-pound pack on my back. Most people don't know that I rode my motorcycle single-handedly for 2 months across North America by myself back in 2007 when I was 47. You know, and you know, they're just little examples of things that I've done in my life that most people don't even get to know about. And you know, if I was to read a story from someone who had done that and other interesting things besides, I will be thinking, oh my God, you know, why didn't I know this about her? Why didn't we know this about this incredible woman, about how she lived before she became too old to do anything? You know, I mean, we will all get to a point where we're probably too dribbly to string a decent sentence together, or you know, God help us, let's hope that's a long way in the distance, but we don't know, do we? We don't know. So if you want to leave a gift for your family, a memoir is the way to go, and I can help you with that. I have written 9 novels. I'm in the process of getting my 9th novel published as we speak. Actually, I just sent the first draft off to the publisher this afternoon. The cover is done. The Teapot Cottage series is a series of novels aimed largely at older women like myself. Because I started off because I just couldn't find enough to read. I was menopausal and I was going through a phase of where I just wanted to escape my horrible body and reality and all that stuff for a while. You know, I just wanted to kind of jump into a different world. But at my age that I was at the time, I couldn't find much fiction that interested me, that kind of kept me riveted through to the end, because I love to jump into a book and be a part of that world. And often to the point where by the time the book comes to an end, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not ready to leave yet. So I decided because I couldn't find anything. I thought, well, I'll just write something instead. So I entertained myself that way and wrote a book, which has now morphed into a series of 8. The penultimate book is ready for publishing and should be available at the end of this month. But the whole point of what I'm talking to here is I started writing for other people quite late in life. And I really wish I'd got into my groove a little bit earlier. But what I'm saying to you now is that now is the time. Now is the time, if it's yourself or if it's a member of your family whose story you want to know more about, you could maybe encourage her to get in touch with me and allow me the privilege of walking with her while she tells her story. And if it's you that wants to tell it, I can't wait to hear another woman's story. Obviously this is it's an income stream for me. I won't lie about that. But really for me, it's about hearing women's voices, keeping women's narrative alive as they get older and start to become less relevant in society and have to fight that little bit harder for the recognition and the ability to have their voices heard. So it's not really all just about leaving a legacy for your family. It's the power that you have now in your choice to tell that story. It gives you the confidence. Once you start, you just keep going, and you'll start to remember stuff about your life that you'd forgotten. That, oh yes, that's right, I'm going to include that too because that's interesting. And just remember that maybe it might not seem interesting to you, but trust me, it is going to be fascinating to the people who come after you in your family. A lot of women do need to set the record straight with people who have judged them poorly or ostracized them or just fallen out with them in the context of family or friends. And it's an opportunity. Writing your story is an opportunity to tell your side of the story. And okay, it's in a way that maybe later when you have kind of shuffled off the coil or whatever, they're not, you can't argue with them then. They can't argue with you, can they? I mean, they can read your story and just think, oh, okay, now I get it. And for some of us, that's important. For some of us, we are still driven, even as we know in a lot of cases it's not going to make a dent while we're alive. We are still driven to try and educate people about ourselves, about elements of ourselves that they might have got wrong. We've all got that. We've all got people who've drifted into our orbit, or people whose orbit we've ended up in, and they haven't understood us. And rather than try to understand us, they've melted away, or they've turned around and tried to make us the bad guy because they didn't understand us. And for a lot of women, writing a memoir, writing a story is an opportunity to say, hey, look, you got that wrong. This is the reality. And if it makes a woman feel better to do that, then it is absolutely the right thing to do. So people do write stories for a number of different reasons, but I think for me, one of the things I feel that I feel the most deprived of is not knowing any of my father's family. My grandmother died when he was 2, and we don't even know where she's buried. There isn't enough of a record anywhere, and there's no one left alive now to tell me as much about or anything about her at all. But there was just so much that I wanted to know, and I'll never know. And I sometimes think that when we have the opportunity to offer elements and facets of ourselves to people that they might not pick up and read about until much, much later, it's still your voice. Even after we've all gone, our voices are still out there, and they are important. And your story, your narrative really matters because it's the testament of a life. It's the testament, it's the markers of the ability to overcome challenge, to take on burdens and survive them, and to experience joy in any number of different ways. We are real people. We're real women with really powerful experiences and wisdoms and insights to offer. So that's why your narrative matters, and that's why there's no time like the present to start saying, well, okay, I'm going to start putting my memoir together. It doesn't have to be a huge tome, a dozen pages. Sometimes that's enough to just make certain points that you want people to know about in the long term. But you can also, you don't necessarily even have to talk about yourself. You can talk about someone else's story in your family, and you don't have to be a literary whiz. You don't have to be super eloquent or super intelligent. You don't have to be the best writer or speller on the planet to be able to get that story out in its true, authentic way. I can help you with that, and I have different levels of support packages that I offer. So check out my website. It's www.anniecookwriter.com and go to the page where it says, let's hear your story, because your story is something that I want to hear. I consider it a true privilege to be able to listen to other women's stories, because the experiences that some people have had in this life are absolutely mind-boggling. And what a desperate shame it would be if not enough people knew about that. So that's my narrative for today, and I hope that it's helped you, inspire you maybe to start jotting down a few little ideas about what you'd like to say, what kind of things you would like your family to know about you, now and in the future. Just because we lived doesn't mean that when we die, everything dies with us. If our story continues, we continue. We still live in the hearts of all of those people who find our narrative extraordinary. It's a gift that you can't put a price on. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.